From the world of iRacing, we come to ACC for the flagship Simufur GT3 series. Welcome to the Season 6 Simufur GT3 series. I am your main commentator, Suzuka Shark, and alongside me is Nick, and behind the cameras, Mikepaws. So, Nick, what do you think of Red Bull Ring?
Well, it is a track that's pretty technical, given that we have I've done some practice here just to see where I am against the pace. And honestly, with the new grid, really competitive. We used to be, me and Suzuka used to be drivers in front, and I could barely crack it. I still can't crack into 28s. I don't know about you. So it's definitely a very competitive field tonight.
Definitely, everyone is looking fast out there today, and at the moment, while we do have technical issues, the AMs are forecasted to be coming out of the pit lane to be starting their qualifying laps. So let's take a look outside the pit lane. Let's see those amateur cars. Here is Derg from Shortcut Blue Shark E-Racing. Again, technical difficulties. Not a lot of deliveries are loading. But Dirk is out here coming out the pit lane amongst all these AM class drivers to get a lap done.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the new M cars are going to be performing on track, because we have new M car drivers here. We don't see them that good on the timing sheet currently because of server technical issues, but we have very new faces here, as you can see here on the timing grid. We do have some familiar faces on the pro scene, like Dirk, Oraz, the likes of RK, Sarah Bryan, but we have familiar faces like, I think that's Snow. Oh no, that's Lappy.
That's
as
Lappy.
well as we have other drivers as they are new here as well. Quinn, who is now in the new team, Cabal Racing. We have the likes of drivers from TGR as well as from Blue E. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how these new drivers are gonna fare in this grid, as we see drivers here now coming out on turn 2. And it's going to be interesting to see how these the timing sheets are going to be filled with how competitive the grid is.
Talking about new teams, there we do have two new teams coming into the Simufur grid. First of them being, as you mentioned, Cabal Sim Sports, is it right? Yeah, and the other being Backgrid K9. So we do have, as far as I'm concerned, we have 6 teams with more than 2 drivers at least here in the Simufur grid, and it's great to see that team battle go on. As we look into pit lane, there is one of the Tig Gang racers, that is Katie Fox. But right now, the lap times, the AM should be on their qualifying lap. So let's look at number car 636 for a lap guide around the Red Bull Ring.
I mean, depends on how the car how people drive here. It is a very technical track. We do see that if you see the pros here coming down into turn 1, I think Suzuka gonna have a lap on there.
Yep. Here's a lap from
Ooh.
Quinn, who I think I assume no.
It is Quinn. Yes,
Yeah,
it is Quinn.
going a bit wide. But yeah, this is the here. Yeah, come explain to us the whole
Alright,
lap guide around the
so
Red Bull Ring.
I'll give you a lap down here at Red Bull Ring coming down to turn 3. Hard brakes on the 100-meter board coming down into turn 3. Gotta be careful here though, because you have the sausage on the inside and the outside. Right, but if you do it right, you can have a good run here coming down into turn 4. A little bit technical here, supposed to go to the right, then keep to the left. Here, you got the 100-meter board, as you do here, hard on the brakes. Try to make sure that you have you let go enough brakes to trail it in, so that you don't slide wide in turn 4, as you can see here by Quinn. Strong power through into turn 5, turn 6, brake on the 50-meter board. Make sure you don't overbrake yourself or also slide wide. You need to make sure you hit the apex here. Don't go too wide here, though. You get into the gravel, turning hard braking to turn 7. Here is also another place where people get caught up. Be patient on the power, or also go out into the gravel on your right side. Then you need to make sure you capitalize on the track coming down into turns 8, turn 9, hard brake on 50 before turn in. Oh, I seem to have technical issues. I can't see things, but if you do everything right, that will be a lap at Red Bull Ring. So it's going to be interesting how. So it's be interesting to see how these drivers fare in here. But currently, with the M drivers on track, it's going to be it's not the best representation of the lap. But it's good to see that drivers are still working hard to make sure that they stay on track, because we do have a pretty long qualifying, because we do have to accommodate for 50 different drivers here, but we don't have the full 50 grid. We have 50 drivers signed up here, 12, 21 pros, 16 silvers, 13 AM drivers on the grid that's supposed to be on the grid tonight. But with the reduced drivers, it's still a very full grid, but we only get 10 minutes, if I remember correctly, per class. So if you are in one of the classes, you have to make sure that you are able to finish your lap within 10 minutes. Else, you don't get much left, and then you have to you have to be graded on a very weird spot on the starting grid for your start of the race.
You're right there, Nick. And at the moment, it is Derg for Blue E taking the provisional pole for the AM class for now. But the times are getting quite close. They're coming across the line just recently was 1v. I assume that's 1v J Veron, who has set a lap to set them into the AM class front row. But you do have a few more challengers such as Lappy or Wolfen, who are very quick and have also scored for provisional AM class pole. We look at Wolfen, who is creating another qualifying lap as of the moment. Now, normally these cars would be blue, but unfortunately, due to technical issues, not all liveries could load properly. But Wolfen from the Blue E, from the short called Blue Shark E Racing team, coming into turn 9, into turn 10 to set another qualifying lap. And at the moment, let's see what Wolfen can score. Will it be enough to put them in the front of the field? Will it? And it's not quite. They're still in 4th in the AM class.
Yeah, but it's interesting how close the grid is right now. Like you said, Dirk being the first off the drivers in front, followed by Lappy in turn 2, I think. I can't see very clearly. Followed by Verone and P3. See here, Revenloff and P4. These are very interesting names here, mainly because there's some pseudo technical capabilities. But there is Wolfen on P4. Then we have being trying to get away from Lappy. That is currently P2, setting a fast lap. Currently, though, the AMs I can see here doing a 1 minute 29.5, very fast laps for the AM drivers. So, gonna be interesting to see how the silvers and the pros will fare here. If the AMs are already doing 29.5s, God, I can't imagine how fast the silvers and the pros need to be just to make sure that they stay in front, or else it's gonna be a very strong toss-up between the fact that you have to fight against the AM class for your championship grid, or you might just give up and just fight for the overall points. But that's up to everyone's individual drivers' needs and also their goals for this race. But for now, very interesting to see how these qualifying times will end up.
Yeah, so you did mention 10 AMs at the moment having set qualifying lap times here, and a lot of these times are pretty quick, even for the AM class drivers, and that could probably just be Nick and I being more experienced and more older when it comes to the lap times. But these AMs, I can say from experience, they're pretty quick. They're no slouch, even though they're the bottom of the field. It tends to be really competitive there from time to time.
Well, yeah, but I think from time to time we've seen as well from all past 6 seasons is that AM drivers can be quick. We have seen a lot of AM drivers that punch through the silvers and sometimes even being close to pro pace. But the problem is, these times are times set in qualifying. Regardless of how fast you are in qualifying, you gotta remember as well that you have to finish the 1 hour race. So if you can't finish a race in a very consistent pace, where you have issues, for repairs or you're spinning out, that still puts you at the back of the pack. So I think we will see a lot of cars that have very strong promises, as we see here. They're running out wide, as we expect to do as a pro driver, because that's how you extend track limits here in Red Bull Ring. As long as they keep the car clean, they will get a promotion at the end of the season. But if they don't stay clean, that's how they stay in That's how they stay in M, and that just basically is a show off. You need to make sure that you are clean on track, especially in the race itself.
That is right, Nick. It's not just about qualifying; it's about race. Remember, we do have a 1 hour race ahead of us. It's quite an endurance for some of these AM drivers, but I believe they'll do fine. A lot of these drivers have been here with the Simufur grid for quite a while now. In fact, I'm not sure if I can see if there are any rookies besides. Yeah, I don't think there's any national class either. It's just
There
a
is no
lot of
national
these
class this time
drivers.
around.
Yeah, there a lot of these, but yeah, a lot of these drivers they have experienced what it's like to be in the Simufur grid, but not in a grid this big. Remember, we have at least 40 drivers here, 42 Maximac by the looks of it so far. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they do in such a packed field.
Yeah, and speaking of packed field, once the M grid has just finished, now it's the silvers class to come out. And historically speaking, silver class and the pro class have one of the closest grids ever on Simufur. This is the class where you have the middle ground between the M drivers and the pro drivers. This is where most of the M drivers will graduate to, unless you are showing pace that you are pro and you have what it takes to be a pro. But for now, you see most drivers that will be in silver. These are the drivers that you usually see are pretty familiar. You see the likes of TGR drivers here that are coming out. Uh, this is on bridge, but we will see pretty familiar faces. You'll see the likes of Lunar in the NSX. You'll see Skylar, Vixen. You'll see our familiar drivers here. Some drivers, Newt will be one of them in the silver summer, if I remember correctly, Suzuka, if that's the case. But you'll see, is Newt in pro class right now?
Newt?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Newt
remember
is
you
pro
in
class.
silver class. I
Yeah.
thought Newt missed the promotion, but yeah, and you'll see some of the drivers that we are pretty familiar here coming in silver class. As we see the first laps of the silver cars coming out that's Castrol in the very loud, very strong, very fun Lexus coming into turn one, very strong here. Make sure you don't cross the sausage curbs too hard, or else you basically validate the lap. So really strong driving from Castrol coming down to turn 2 and turn 3. So you'll see the drivers really pushing the pace here. I think we'll maybe see the first of the sub 29s. You just get the get the 28s here, but for now, very strong driving from. Make sure you don't extend track limits too much, just enough on the sausage curb, and very clean. Still a validated lap by Castrol. But right now we'll have to see the timing boards in a sec. Coming down to turn 3, actually turn 4. Nice extension. Make sure you don't run wide here, or else you get into this gravel trap. Good driving from Castrol. So we might actually start to see a proper representative lap from the silver class right now, turn 5 and turn 6. So it's gonna be a pretty strong run from him. So it's the Red Bull Ring itself, although it looks simple, given that it's not much corners, usually drivers need about 2 laps to get a warm up on the tires. But it's very technical, given that as a driver, to maximize the speed that you have here, you have to extend all the track limits here. As we see here, Castrol getting a little bit wide coming down here. So it's gonna be interesting to see how these drivers maximize their track limits. Suzuka, have you driven here, and what times have you been driving here for yourself here?
It's been quite a while since I touched ACC actually, so I have no idea what times I've set. I've only done laps for promotional shots, so they're not representative of my pace. But yeah, as I almost forgot to say, but for the AM class qualifying, it's Lappy on pole with Dirk sharing the front row, and I believe it's 1V in P3 for the AM class. But looking over into the silver field, we have Kestrel in provisional pole for the silver class by a huge margin ahead of Swingley and Vex and the rest of the silver class drivers. And here is another driver who is probably well known in the Simufur grid. There is Raph, also known as Leggy Too Fast. Amazing artist and also amazing driver here in the silver class.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see that, as you said, some of the AMs are basically silver place, as you see here. 2 drivers that were previously in the previous qualifying session in the AM qualifying is now on P2 and P3. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers, they will slot between the silver class. As we see here, time starting to show up. We do see silvers in the 30s. That's not far off, as we see here. Raph, while the strong AMG drivers here, Camille, while the new Bluey drivers setting 130.3. So pace will go down. I do believe that, given that you basically usually expect a 2-lap warm up from these drivers, but it's very interesting to see that this season at least the gap between the M's and the Silvers have come down significantly. Though looking at the chat from the drivers before this race, it seems that the BOP here does make things a little bit more interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see how how the BOP affects how mixed the grid is. Some drivers might not like it given how close the grid is, but for us in commentary, it's going to be a very, very, very hectic grid, and we're all for it. We're here to make sure that we keep you covered and make sure that we get all the actions tonight. But I think Mike's going to have an extra work done here, given that he had to control what's happening. We got to make sure that we know what's happening as well, given that we have names having issues. So for us, it's going to be strong, giving here 129.2 from that's Vex from Louis. So you see here time still improving over the course of this the qualifying here, with 4 minutes remaining for the silver drivers. They really have to pick the game up, else they might just see themselves behind an M driver. That's not really the best they want to do.
You're right there, Nick. And track evolution might come into play for this qualifying session, because I don't know how much the track ramps up, but every single bit of grip matters here in qualifying. And hopefully as the track gets more rubber laid down on them from all the drivers racing around the circuit, I think the times are going to tumble down little by little. But at the moment, it's Kestrel with a strong lead in the silver class qualifying, alongside Blue E's Vex start sharing the front row. Here is Kamirs for Blue E going for another lap. I think that is going to be a personal best from Kamirs by the looks of it. Let's see where this takes the number 77 Blue E McLaren. Coming down the final corner into the straight. Here we go. What time will this be? It is going to be good enough for
A 129.4. That's still P15.
But still P15, but yes, personal best.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're seeing here drivers are still doing what times are faster than me, and they are. It's so competitive that you see them still in P15. So it's going to be interesting see how things go. I think that's just a time machine not updating. But right now P2 doing 128.8. So a really, really, really competitive field. So I think drivers need to remember that qualifying just sets the pace for where they are on grid. But I think some of the drivers might excel with more experience, given that they have better track time, better door-to-door racing skills. Those will see them excel in the pit strategy. We're gonna have interesting time to see how they handle the race. I think some of the faster drivers that are not used to having competitive grids might see them struggle, just cracking under pressure. So that's something that we have to take into account, and we'll definitely have to see that during the race itself. 2 minutes remaining for the silver drivers here, coming down as Parker from TGR coming down to the grid. We're not sure who this driver is, given I don't know the nationality of this driver, but they are basically retiring for their lap. Unfortunately, I think they just invalidated, so they'll still remain with the 128s. Right now, 129.1, that's Vex in P3, the strong BMW. Pretty strong here. One of the, not the most famous car here, BMW, but as you can see, extending the track limits as much as they could. Definitely a very strong run from Vex. I think they want to make sure that they push up just to make sure that they stay in front from the rest of the grid before the pros start to show up and basically light up the timing sheets again in 1 minute's time.
I would like to add Parker Olson is Parcho from Tagang Racing, another quick driver in the silver class. We've seen him last in the Simufur Silver Championship. Their racecraft, while it wasn't the best, they did have their redemption at Suzuka, and it showed a lot of promise. And Parker, I mean Parcho, going to prove that was not a one-off in Suzuka. That Parcho is capable of being a great racer in the silver class. As we see Vex coming around the final 2 corners, trying to steal the front row, I assume, into turn 9, into turn 10. It's really easy to break the track limits there. Oh, Vex goes a little bit wide. I'm not sure if that's track limits or not. That is still under track limits, and it's going to be for the front row. Vex steals P2 from Parcho.
That is amazing at 122.8. That is certainly a car that time that I don't expect the cars to push that hard for, but from what I've seen from rumors in the grid, the times will only get lower here as we're expecting pro drivers to go into the 28.5s. But 28.7s, 28.8s, these cars are very fast here. And with the big cars as well, the M4 Castrol here with the Lexus, these cars are not easy to drive here. They are pretty big and heavy. They do get benefits from the long straights from turn one, from the first straight, and then down to turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3. To maybe, and then after that, at the straight at the very top of the Red Bull Ring, these are where the cars that are strong and powered excel. But then you have the likes of Sector 2 and Sector 3, both very technical tracks, parts of the track that require a very agile car. And these are where you see some of the lighter cars excel on the Ferraris, the likes of the NSX. But the problem is you have to find where the middle ground is. Some drivers are able to do it, as you can see here with Castrol as well as Vex, but you'll see some of the lighter cars will excel later. For now, though, we hear that the Audi is not too strong here, but it's really up to the drivers to make sure that they are able to do it, and it is up to the pros. Now with Boschel coming out at the pit lane, I think it's going to be interesting to see where the pros end up. But Boschel, one of the first drivers coming out into the pit lane, so it's time for the pros to do a qualifying. I think we'll have to see some impressive times here from the likes of the pros. With see here, Mr. Hat. I think that's not sure who that is.
That's random, but yeah, you're right, Nick. You're right, Nick. Qualifying for the Pro Class. Finally, the fastest drivers of our field. Last but not least, the Pro Class. Our best drivers here on the Simufur grid. Some of the fastest. Hell, Nick and I we're pros ourselves, but we're just taking our time sitting back and watching these fellow pro drivers go for qualifying. And there is Azure Gold, one of our Pro Class drivers for Ridge Racers project, about to set a lap. Now expect these laps. Laps to be blitzing. They'll probably break the 128, but who knows? Kestrel set a mega lap.
Well, we do see Castrol set a mega lap, but I've seen from some timing sheets that we are expecting drivers, the likes of RK, the likes of MNU, maybe even Azure, all drivers that we are used to seeing at the front of the grid are going to expect it to be quicker. RK is basically closing in on the 27s, whereas but track conditions will dictate how things go. Currently, though, Azure leading the pack here. No, I stand corrected. There is an Audi in front of Azure. Azure definitely wants to get a toe in front of him, but for now, we're following Azure in the car 765. The McLaren, a little bit long of a wheelbase, might not be the best car here, but the BOP is definitely going to help it with the very strong happens of turn 3, turn 4 itself, 2 corners that you kind of lose a lot of time if you don't get it right, especially turn 4 itself, a downhill, strong braking as we've seen there. But right now into turn 6 and turn 7, extending track limits as much as you can. These are where you'll see a car that's set up well will excel, given that you have to make sure that the car rotates enough while on mid corner, or at the same time when you put the power down, they don't slide away. You'll see the likes of the Mustang struggling as they have over amounts of torque on the car. Will make the car not be as compliant in the corners, but for the rest of them, you'll see here as they come to the grid, you see here drivers coming in 128.9s on their first lap itself. They're only going to go higher, faster as the time goes by, coming back into turn 1. These drivers are. So it's going to be interesting to see how they end up, and it's going to be interesting to see how the pros take this track.
Yep, that's right, Nick. At the moment, they're not beating the silver times yet. But remember, those first laps, those tires are pretty cold. They're just coming out of the pit lane. So we're going to expect these times to tumble down as Azure continues his chase, going behind the slipstream of who I believe is the Audi of Plasma. And I want to bring up Plasma here because he is our previous Simufur GT3 Season 5 overall champion. He's the Audi ahead of Azure Goat, trying to make the chase along with these other drivers. But I want to add to Plasma that he is an esports driver for the Apex Racing Academy. So the pro class, very diverse from very naturally gifted drivers, or those in the esports scene, such as Plasma here in the number 116 Audi. So it's great to see that diverse skill set in action with the pro class, which is one of our biggest fields, if I'm right. And yeah,
It
I
is the
think
biggest field here.
it is the biggest field. I am right. And yeah, from esports drivers like Plasma to those who are very gifted at sim racing. I just like to see that diversity. Like you have your casuals taking on esports drivers.
Yeah, it's definitely a lucky thing that we have Plasma here. It's basically saying a representative time against everyone. Basically, with the fact that how big our grid is, usually drivers tend to get a bit worked up in terms of where we are against the rest of the grid. That is our competitive nature that we usually see. But sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we are in a casual league. Some people might not like the fact that we're a bit casual. Some people might take things a bit too seriously. But at the end of the day, we all have to remember that we're all in here to have fun. It is nice to have a competitiveness here and there, and keep ourselves passionate in this kind of hobby. But at the end of the day, we are here to have fun. I think this is a thing that we need to remind ourselves as well as drivers as well. So hopefully the drivers at the end, especially during the race as well as at the end of the race, keep it civil, keep it fun. I think that sometimes the driver's chat gets a little bit heated up in the background, but at the end of the day, we're all here to have fun. So hopefully the drivers have fun here in our inaugural race here in season 6. Season 6, yes. So hopefully things go well. As we see here, Jordan the Plasma taking the toe from Azure. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get an improvement after this lap. They're definitely using Azure as a toe. I think Azure will know this, but that depends on if Azure even wants to give Plasma the toe, given that they just finished a lap. They might just move away, let Plasma by, just so that they don't impede them.
Yeah, but so far, none of these laps are piercing Kestrel's lap, but Terrabine takes P3 overall. Remember, the pro class is not scored by their own class. They are scored by their overall finish. So Terrabine actually one of the star drivers for Blue E. He's one of the fastest in the team, and it's taking on the challenge against Robbie Kelly or RK from Tig Racing. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Oh, I forgot to mention Azure Goat just sneaked in. The big 3 drivers fighting for top honors in the pro class here. RK, Cerebine, and Azure. It's going to be very fierce in the front.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see that Castrol, despite being a silver, is still in front of the grid. I think that's going to be nice to see the silvers leading the pack, but it's up to Castrol to make sure that they stay in front of the pack later on. As we see here, 3 minutes remaining in qualifying. Cerebrine, they're chasing hard with a toe in front of them. The Bentley's currently coming back strong here, especially Cerebrine, the GTR. The new pit skill BOP that we have here has improved competitiveness between the cars, but it has definitely tossed up what cars are on track. But it's good to see that drivers are, using different cars here, coming in and out of different cars. You see the good old Bentley coming out here. RK just set a new fastest lap time, so it's very interesting to see. As it's nice to see more than just the usual suspects in front of the grid. So it's very nice to see, new cars, especially old cars, back on the grid.
Yeah, most of the part from what I've seen beforehand on ACC racing, it was mostly Ferraris, Porsches, and McLarens. But at the moment, we do have a diverse set of cars as we look over to Denak from Tikang Racing, racing in one of the TGR Ferraris. But it's great to have a Ferrari. As you see so far, we have Ferraris, Lexuses, GTRs, McLarens, all these diverse set of cars bringing on the competition at the front.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to see, and we see here Danak here struggling a little bit coming down to turn 6 and turn 7. The Ferrari, although it's light, although it is very strong in that arrow. Oh, yep, as you come here, seeing here in turn 7 and turn 8. If you don't get it right though, you do want to extend track limits here, but with how off camber turn 6 and turn 7 is, when you go a little bit wide here, your car tends to kind of just wash wide. That's when your car needs a little bit strong on the preload to make sure that it reels itself back in. So you see here Danak might have a little bit of a struggle, but I think that's just coming down to the setup itself. The car might not be ready for it, as Danak just sets a 129.4 on track. So it's a long ways to go, but you can see here 29.4 is still within top 10, which is still nice to see. At least for myself as a driver, at least I feel like I know that I'm still within top 10. But for the fact that RK just set at 128.4, as their fastest lap on lap 4. It's gonna be interesting to see how the drivers in front fight as we see that drivers start to make sure they start their last lap, because there's only 28 seconds remaining and counting down to qualifying. So drivers need to start, finishing their laps here, or start a new flying lap and get it counting, because there's only one last lap here, and if you don't do it, you might as well just prepare for your race.
Might I point out the qualifying times as well? The top 12 are all in the 128s. They're just divided by around 5/10, and qualifying is over. So these are the last laps. So who is going to steal that pole position? Who is going for the front of the field? Here is Cerebine in that blue E GTR going all the way. There's someone going wide in the background. Their lap will definitely be invalid, but Cerebine is looking. It's going to be very close for the number 57 as they head into turns 9 and 10. Will they use all the track? Definitely will. Going wide into turn 10. Trying to stay under track limits and washing out wide in that final corner. Putting the power down. And what will this be for Cerebine? It will be Cerebine in pole position! Cerebine in the number 57 Blue E gets pole position with a 128.2. But so far, I don't think anyone is going to break that lap record. So it's Cerebine guaranteed on pole. For the second time, a Blue E driver has set pole position on the first round of the Simufur GT3 series. The driver before Cerebine, not to toot my own horn, but it was myself. But unlike how my race would go, I hope Cerebine's race will go well.
A little bit biased there, but of course, by the end of the day, it is your team, so I can't deny you that. But it's a very strong lap by Cerebine. The 128.29 it is not a lap to slouch, especially in the GTR as well. A car that's not really notoriously good on most tracks, given its dated 2018 configuration. But at the end of the day, very strong lap by Cerebine, as we knew here. Very, very nice to see Cerebine being good, being strong here. But you still have the likes of RK, Castrol, and right behind them Azure, as well as Plasma, fighting for grid. So it's going to be very hard, very interesting to see how this grid lays out. Will the GTR be able to survive not just a one lap pace? At the end of the day, you have an hour here. We will know that some cars here are not that strong in terms of its tire management. We know that certain cars will be better in terms of making sure they stay on track. Some drivers are actually more comfortable in their setup, while some are just basically sitting on the knife edge. And I think it's up to how good their race trim is to make sure that they are able to get a good run for race. But for now, drivers are gonna be ready for the race for their race session. Gotta make sure that the fuels are in. Gotta make sure that pit strategy is good. Make sure that they have the correct tire pressure for their pit stops. Drivers are required to do a tire change in the pits, and they do have a pit window for them. So with these have in mind, it's gonna be interesting to see how drivers will end up in the grid itself.
So the drivers are still in pit lane. They're still going to be getting on the grid later on. But for now, what do you think of qualifying? That was very fierce competition. That is actually the top 6 divided by 5/10. What do you make of it?
It's gonna be it's definitely interesting to see how the grid is working, with the fact that how close the grid is, as you see here, 5/10 between the top 6, if I heard you correctly. It's gonna be interesting to see how their race pace is, though, given that that's just the qualifying pace. Qualifying pace does not tell you the end results of a race, but it does tell you how capable these drivers are. And you know, even though it's one lap pace, I know some drivers will have very strong race pace, so it'll be interesting to see, especially for Plasma itself, the favorites to win. But for now, given Red Bull Ring is a very strong power track, we will see maybe a new race winner, and I think that's going to be interesting for the drivers.
All right. All right, everyone is gridded up on the grid in the main straight. So let's get over to our grid for our grid walk here and take a look at our drivers. Starting in the pole position is the number 57 Blue E Nissan GTR of Cerebine and sharing the front row is the Ferrari of Tig Gang's Robbie Kelly. RK. It's going to be very interesting to see these two coming into turn one. In the second row is Kestrel for our silver class pole position, by the way, in the number 46 Lexus. Very strong lap time. And starting alongside is the number 4 RR. The P4 is the number 765 RRP McLaren of Azure Gold. Sharing the third row is our previous GT3 Season 5 champion, number 116 Audi Plasma, and starting alongside is number 84 for the new team Cabal Sim Sports, Giondo, who we saw at the McLaren in the silver champ, but now he's racing a Mustang. Number 7 in the front row of the silver class is Vex in the it's supposed to be number 22, but the server issues forced it to be 23. It is Vex in the number 23 BMW, and alongside is number 236 Gator Racing, another Lexus from Christian Klippert. Completing out our top 10 is the number 54 Tig Gang Racing car of Denak, and starting alongside him, another Tig Gang car of Parcho. It's a Tig Gang 9 and 10. For P11 P12, we have Wushel for the number 69, nice, Shork Racing Porsche, alongside the number 808 Cabal Bentley of MN underscore. In P13 and P14, we have Sauce Dragon, the number 73 RRP Mustang, starting alongside another Bentley of Harper Jackson in number 203. P15 and P16, we see another M4 for Blue E. This is Adrian Newt. This is Newt starting alongside number 64 Cabal Sim Sports. I believe that it's Ven or Nicholas Zan. Behind these two is the Garage 42 279 car of Swingley, who will be racing alongside the number 93 McLaren of Katie for Tig Gang Racing. For P19 and P20, we have Lappy for RRP starting alongside number 4's Hat Critic or Randomy for Garage 42. P21, P22, we have the number 406 Aston Martin of RAS starting alongside Saber Kitsune in the Mustang, a new choice for Saber considering he's usually in the Mustang. And here is P23 Dirk for Blue E. I forgot to mention that Lappy was AM-class pole, but starting alongside another Blue E driver, that is Dipping Sauce in the number 38 Mustang. P25 is Cabal Sim Sports Bentley again, Jack Mace starting alongside Raph, the number 28 Leggy Too Fast Mercedes-Benz. P27, P28, we have Electroshocks, another Tig Gang row here the number 75 starts alongside the number 324 of Taichi. Yes. Number 15, another Tig Gang driver. That is Vossi starting alongside 1V of Cabal Sim Sports. And in P31, P32, we have to get to this grid fast because they're getting rolling right now. That is Skylar Vixen and RK9's number 59, Czar. And P33, P34, we have Blue E's Wolfen and Cabal's Adam Nurim, known as Phaser. Yes. Number 77 is Camiers for Blue E. Number 14, we have Vinicus Guerra. The drivers are rolling out. But here is RRP's Zephyr alongside Backred K9's Rico. And P39 is Blue E's Jinfolf and Cabal's Quinn. P41, finalizing our grid is Fennekin and Andrew.
That's Lunar.
All right. That's Lunar. Yeah. All right. My God. Yes, as the drivers are already coming up.
Yeah, that's a very big grid.
Turn 4. Yeah, it's a big grid. Yeah.
Yeah, but as you see here, the driver is coming down into the formation lap, though, ready to get a start here. Pasma is definitely going to be in front, as well as that's actually Cerebine is going to be starting the grid, so it's going to be interesting to see how they prepare for their warm-up, making sure that they're ready for their formation lap. I believe Suzuka is going to be talking about the start of the play. If not, I will be talking about the start of the play. So we will be ready to see how these drivers get ready for the start of the grid. Single file still until they get into the last two corners. That's when they get into double file territory. And with ACC starting grid, it's going to be a very strong, very close pack for the starting grid as they start to line up for double filing. But It's gonna be chaos as we always do in ACC, and it's gonna be a new season for the stewards to have fun in the Stewards chat.
Yeah, that is right. We are expecting lap 1 chaos. We're expecting almost anything from these drivers as the drivers get ready to double file. Cerebine quite some distance away from the rest of the field. I think that's just RK backing up the pack. Who knows? But Cerebine with the pole position and the outside line, but RK in P2 in the inside line might be a threat, but that GTR has more power. So let's see who comes out better into turn 1 as the drivers align to the grid. It's Cerebine still with quite some distance, and we're waiting for the green light to go. Here they go. Cerebine and RK still rather calm as the green light will be waving really soon. It's green light and away we go. Great start from Cerebine. Already closing off RK ever so slightly. RK going on the outside. And Castro going on the outside. Asher going into turn 1. That is RK around the outside. Steals the move and takes the lead into lap 1. Cerebine a bit juggled down there. They have Kestrel right behind him alongside Plasma. It's a really hectic grid by the looks of it as Cerebine backs out of it, knows it's the race. It's going to be a 1-hour race, so we'll fight another day.
It's a very strong run from RK, basically gone in front, but as you see here, the GTR here struggling at the start of the race. I think they'll slowly warm up to it, but great cover by Cerebine to make sure that they don't fall back even more. But as you see here, drivers are starting to really shuffle everything here. Tyler, though, in the fourth, pushing a little bit back, 4 positions down from the pack. But as you see here, contact from everyone here. So it's going to be close door banging from the drivers, making sure that they don't have any incidents as they continue to start struggling here as the grid starts to settle itself down. Some drivers you'll see some drivers will start to fall off a lot, as you see here, the likes of Wushel already gaining 4 positions. As you see just now that someone has already dropped 4 positions. Some drivers will have a very strong start as they usually are pretty aggressive. Not to say that they're over aggressive, they're a bit aggressive on the start, but some drivers tend to be a bit more reserved. They like to lose a bit of positions in exchange of survivability. You'll see some drivers will just shuffle around. You'll slowly see drivers, you know, get into a single line. So you see here Cerebine saying the fastest lap of 1:35.4. That's still not the fastest lap that you'll see on this grid, but as you can see here, drivers will get stronger as the time goes by. It's another fastest lap, 1:34.9 by the car 236. As we'll see here, and with a 42 grid, you know, it's gonna be a very strong climb for some drivers. It's gonna be a very strong fall for some of them as well. So survival is key to make sure that you just make sure you have the least resistance in the race. But for some, they just really want to climb, and it's gonna be very important to see how things go.
Yep, we do have some battles in the mid-pack. Oh, there's a lot of chaos going on there. What's going on? Oh, that is a massive pileup. That is Sauce Dragon. Everyone is... Oh my goodness. It's a big accident coming out of turn 3. Massive pileup. I'm not sure if we're going to need an intervention here. By the looks of it, at the moment, we're still business as usual. But that was a massive accident coming out of turn 3. Sauce Dragon, unfortunate victim. And one of the unfortunate victim. Let's look back at the replays and see what happened. Because there is Dipping Sauce. Yeah, but yeah, Dipping Sauce one of the fortunate victims. But yeah, let's see here. Coming out of turn 3. I don't know what happened. That looks like a Porsche, a Honda. Everyone's looking calm so far. And oh my goodness! So it happened right ahead beforehand. I wonder what happened. Oh my good! Yellow flags, please! These guys are... Oh my goodness. Big accident from everyone here. Everyone going into the pit lane, definitely to pit for repairs. But that is a huge wipeout of majority of the field.
Yes, it's definitely unfortunate to see that some drivers are having do have damages in the race. They'll definitely have to serve their repairs here. Unfortunately, though, their repairs shouldn't be too long. They might have a minute or two of repairs that might put them to the back of the grid, but it will be pretty alright as they get back to it. Unfortunately, they might be a lap down or so, but you know, the race is still going on. The good thing about this for them, the bright side of it, is that they'll have other drivers to be fighting with. And with that, they wouldn't have too much of an issue, making sure that they are able to get back into the race. Maybe even though they can't fight for the grid in front, they will still be able to fight for positions within the ones that have lost out on in the crash. But for them, you know, at the end of the day, it's not washed out. You still get points, especially in your own class, in M class, in Silver class, and as well as for the pros in overall. So it's definitely not a time to give up. And you know, it's the first race. It's gonna be a strong race for everyone.
Yeah, that's right. One bad moment should not mean game over to you, as some of these drivers will continue on by the looks of it. They just have long repairs ahead of them. But R. Kelly, yeah, unfortunate name there, Robbie Kelly. Unfortunate naming, but yeah, Robbie Kelly, RK, leading, giving out quite a strong gap compared to Sarabine, who is being chased by Kestrel up close. So Rob RK really has the upper hand on these guys in the lightweight Ferrari, as the two heavyweights, the Nissan GTR and the Lexus RCF, battle right behind him.
Yeah, it's nice to see that Cerebrine and Castrol are still fighting strong here. Cerebrine though, in both actually, the Lexus and the GTR, both very strong powerhouse cars here. You know, basically starting to pull away. Plasma, unfortunately, unfortunately unable to keep up with the tow. It's basically falling behind. And with that, Plasma has to really fight very strong with Azure though. But fortunate for them, already have Azure, so they really just have to defend strong, and Plasma is known to be very strong on defense, so it's going to be interesting to see how Azure gets an overtake on Plasma. But it won't be too bad for Plasma herself if Azure overtakes them. That means that Plasma will finally have a tow to contend with. But for now, you see here Castro getting closer and closer to Cerebrine. That's just making sure that they have a good setup, and as well as a good compliant car to make sure that they don't have issues here, as we see coming down to Luna, defending hard for P19, already up by 23 positions. So as you can see here, the NSX still very strong here on track. So nice to see them still holding on strong. You can see here other drivers as well, the likes of P20, P21, and P22, all behind, shuffling for positions. So definitely interesting to see that the NSX going strong here, even though it's not the most expected car to most performing car they were expecting to see here, as Phasia as well, P20 trying to defend from the positions behind with the Porsche behind them. So the grid's starting to settle down a little bit as incidents start to settle back, and we only have past 7 minutes here in Red Bull Ring, so we still have about 50 minutes to go here. So drivers definitely need to settle down before they come into the pit window. That is in about 20 minutes time.
Yep, and there is the field of. Here is P11 for 11. Here is Emin underscore under threat from Newt. These two in the BMW and the Bentley. Again, these two are the heavyweight cars of the GT3 category, dueling out. And by the looks of it, Newt does have some damage, probably from that pileup. I am not sure, but Newt is still. But Newt was continuing to fight on despite the damage and trying to get past the Bentley, the big boat Bentley of MNU.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see the Bentley coming back. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they handle up. But Zephyr here, defending so many drivers behind them. P26, P25, all like you see here, coming down all the way down to P28 if I see the timing was correctly. So the Audis don't seem to be strong here on grid, given that you'll see some of the Audis are pretty far back. But it is a first race. It is a first. I think the BOP is just definitely unfortunately not in their favor. But you know, it's gonna be a good fight for the drivers out here, as you see here, the strong likes of the BMW and Wolf, and you know, the cars definitely, everyone's struggling at the last corner here because it is a very strong downhill, as you see closing in on the Porsche. The pace difference between the two others is significant, as Wolf gets a very strong set down into Porsche. Will they make contact? No, but I can see here the pace difference. That's going to be an overtake coming down into turn 3, so it's going to be interesting to see how things go. But for now, Dirk down to P25. There we see the first M drivers to qualify though, so interesting to see them down into P25, 2 positions down from the initial position of qualifying.
Another one. That is a Lamborghini of. I assume that's a Lamborghini of Phaser by the looks of it. No, I am wrong. That is Derek back there, but unfortunate incident. I wonder what happened, because I did see a Honda run up alongside him. As we look into the replays, let's hope those replays come out. And yeah, coming into turn 3, which is after the non-existent turn 2, coming down the inside. Oh, it was Lappy with a very late dive, but the
Oh
incident
my
happened
god.
beforehand, so I still don't know what happened.
It's alright, but at the end of the day, at least both of them held the brakes, and it's gonna be interesting to see how Lunar kind of recovers from the incident. I think it might just be a very strong send from Phaser behind of Lunar, so it's gonna be unfortunate for the drivers here as they slowly recover from it. But as for now, you'll see the drivers start to get back into the pace as we see them start to, remember that this is a very long race. We still, as we said previously, there is 50 minutes remaining, so drivers need to be careful, slowly shuffle everything back together. I think it's gonna be a very, very fun race for the rest of them.
That's right. 10 minutes have passed. So we have 15 minutes left to go. It's still a long way to go in terms of racing product. At the moment, I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm trying to keep you updated as much as possible. Unfortunately, we have technical issues, so we'll have to settle for zooming in on Juan V for most of this part until the repairs get underway. But yeah, so far it's been the racing we've expected from the Simufur ACC GT3 series. Not
I wouldn't
to
say
not to make it
that.
sound mean, not to be mean about it.
Yeah, we'll expect it to get into a quick intermission right now, but I wouldn't say that this is a Simufur race that we are expected. At the end of the day, we do expect we do wish drivers to have fun here, and sometimes we have to remember that some of these M drivers are new here, and they might have issues in terms of getting learning the track. At the end of the day, you gotta remember it is a 50 grid driver. We are fortunate to have a grid that is this big. We do have 42 cars on track right now, but it is a 50 grid sign up. Some of these car drivers might not be familiar or used to the fact that we are driving in such a big grid, and some might get intimidated, and some might just not might just have not used to being the fact that there is a very long train. Sometimes when we're in a grid that is basically 10, 12, 20 cars grid, we're used to just breaking a little bit late, but not as late as we see here in the likes of a Simufur grid. So I think it's an important point for drivers to basically use this as a learning point to basically learn that how to behave, how to react in terms of having an incident in front, and sometimes just not capitalize on the fact that when you have an incident in front, to just rush as much as possible. So for some, there's a learning curve. For others, though, it's gonna be interesting to see how they thrive from this chaos. And unfortunately, for right now, uh, some might have given up, but we'll hopefully be able to see them next race.
That's right. But at the moment, a lot so far so far it's been pretty chaotic, but at the same time, it's pretty competitive. As I want to add again, but as we can see, unfortunately, you guys can't see it, but we can see it. But RK still putting on a strong gap compared to Cerobine. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, we're seeing shots of track because we do have some technical issues on the broadcasting end of things. But 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 rest assured, uh,
But now we are trying to get the server back into get the things back into action. But for now, we are trying to we will see some action back in a few bits. Right now, though, I think Suzuka, if you want to go give us a play-by-play as we try to get things back, I think it's the time where we should basically update the drivers on what's happening.
yeah, at the moment we do have P1 is still arcade turbine quite way behind with Kestrel still in. But yeah, unfortunately, right now we're still having technical issues, so I'm still trying to update you as much as I can. Everything's looking okay so far in the terms of the pro class field. In the silver class field, we do have at the moment it is I believe that's Kestrel. in the lead. But here we go. It seems that the TV is back on, but unfortunately we won't have graphics here, so we'll have to base this on rough guesses. But I assume that is the Audi of that is an Audi, but whose Audi is it? I looking over to the grid. It's 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 going to be Zephyr and 1V. Yeah, it's still 1V who we were looking at. And was that a McLaren? Yeah, that was a McLaren that went wide. That was cameras pointing the wrong way around. Unfortunate for the silver class McLaren here. But 1V is still putting on a chase on Zephyr, going down the inside of turn 3. It's going to be close, but thinks better of it later on. We do see a pro driver. I believe that is Denak. Yeah, that is Denak. Probably might have gotten involved in an incident earlier on, right behind, and definitely will put on a chase later on. And Denak really late on the brakes around the outside. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's definitely really very strong move by them, but it's going to be interesting to see how here. But coming down into looking back to the camera right now, we are stuck on a driver, so we're going to try to go lap by lap here. But right now, if you want to know what is the standings right now, as we make sure that the data comes back, we have R. Kelly in P1, Sarah Bryan in P2, Katie Fox in P3.
That is Zephyr spinning out! Oh no!
Yeah, unfortunately for the drivers in front, it's still chaotic driving for all of them though. Coming down here, we'll try to get you a play-by-play on what's happening here with the relatives, but for now, we have a strong running from the drivers here, likes of, let's see, who is that coming out of the final corner? Oh, that's okay, into intermission here. Actually, going back here though, RK in P1, Sarah Bryan P2, Katie Fox in P3, Jordan Johnson, that's Plasma in P4. We have the Lexus of, that's not Lexus, that is of Clipper in P5. He also in P6, that's Wushel in P7, and the Bentley in P8, Azurgo in P9. That is a very far drop from for Azure in P9. Vex though, rounding out the grid in P10. So definitely a very interesting drive from all of them. Plasma though, already get a drive-through, I assume, from track limits warning. So definitely interesting to see the fact that they are having a drive-through here. It's definitely not a race to have a drive-through because of how competitive the field is. So definitely not the best thing to have here. We'll try to get you back into the race as much as possible, but for now, the cars have started to settle down. So you do see some of the likes of some drivers having basically still needing repairs for some of them, but for some, they still just push on as we do as much as possible. From our incident previously, the Lunar that got spun by, I assume, Phaser in the Lamborghini now in P32, still a very strong grip from the back of the pack. So it's very interesting to see that they are still in this race, still strong in P32. If I see here, unfortunately, the timing sheet's unavailable. I'm not really sure where they are against the rest of the M, but they are one of the cars that are labeled as M on the grid right now. But for the rest, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Plasma has to service drive-through, given that drive-throughs in ACC require 3 laps to be served, as he started to slowly get the ACC TV to come back in. But for now, we're still stuck with this driver coming down to turn 1. That is the car of
1V.
1V, yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, that is still 1V coming out of turn 2. By the looks of it, into turn 3. Yeah, that is 1V into turn 3. And at the moment, this field is starting to slowly settle down. But not for long, because who knows, the chaos might be growing. I can sense it, actually. As Lappy is chasing down these drivers right here. There is in the AM class. And speaking of, let's keep you updated with our leads of each class. So for overall, we still have RK leading the pro class. In silver class, it is Kestrel with Pete. Kestrel actually putting a fight to Cerebine in P2. Oh my goodness, it's really close, but Cerebine still holding on to P2, but Kestrel has the silver class lead. Please, there's nothing to lose. You have the silver class to think about. And for the Yam class, let me dig down into this field. It looks like Electroshocks is silver, right? Yep, Electroshocks is silver. And actually, I think it's 1V that is in the AM class lead by the looks of things, with who has Denak on their inside line, probably going to concede that position. But I think Dirk is not too far behind and is wanting to take that M class lead from him.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how the drivers are going strong here. I'll try to make sure that we get some data as soon as we can as well. But for now, though, as we continue to keep our eyes on Huan V, but the rest of the grid still going strong here. No incidents that we see so far. The pack is going strong here as we continue to go on the race. The time now ticks past. We have 40 minutes remaining on this race, so about 20 minutes have passed into this race. Drivers are starting to settle down, get their pace right. Some of the drivers that have issues previously with incidents are going to have to brush off what has happened and slowly get back into the looks of things to make sure that they are able to get a good run. But for some, it's just going to be a long rush to make sure that they keep in front. And for the likes of Arcali right now, with how far they are, basically 1.3 seconds ahead of Cerebrine, they definitely want to make sure that they just keep running. And pit window has just opened. We have about a 20-minute pit window, actually 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after 30-minute mark. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes in the pit first just to get some repairs. I think some drivers with a damaged front end will definitely want to get their repairs in first to get things running. But for some, it's going to be just a long endurance to make sure that they're able to just run out of their fuel before they start pitting in for their pit stops.
At the moment, our first pitter for their official scheduled pit stop, by the looks of it, it's Vigera and Dipping Sauce, and there's also Vasi coming in. It's only 3 drivers so far. No point. I don't think any of them seeing a point to pit that early because they want to keep these tires as fresh as can be and keep a distributed amount of tire wear across their 2 sets. Remember, in this mandatory pit stop, you have to pit for your tires, all 4 tires as default on ACC. And alongside that, inadvertently, is a splash of fuel. You don't want to be too heavy on the race start.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see how drivers have decided on their strategies. Some drivers that have basically minimum fuel until they get into the pit window will have their fuel will have to run. But I don't think that's the most ideal way to get a pit stop here. Those that have gotten heavier fuel loads for the start of the race will see benefit to it. It's not just the fact that you get better, longer fuel runs. It's also the fact that you'll also be one of the few last ones to pit. How is that beneficial? When you pit later, it's going to be beneficial for you to just basically not be put into the middle of traffic. When when you are pitting early, the problem is that if you are a faster driver, you get stuck between drivers that have not pitted. What that means is that you get blue flags all the time. You get rushed into traffic. You have to do a lot of overtake just to make sure they get a clean lap. Some of the fast runners in front might not want that, but for some, especially the cars that have damage, they want to pit as soon as possible, just so they get a restart of the race, get a good repair, get some tires in, get reset for yourself, give yourself a good cooldown. At the end of the day, pit stop is 30 seconds stationary on top of the pit entry and pit exit. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers will handle, as we see here. I think that Cerebrine sliding a little bit on my end, but Juan V still going strong coming down into the hairpin. So pretty interesting to see how things go. I'm gonna make sure that things go strong here, and we will see how things will happen. But for now, pretty interesting to see how things are doing well here, as you see here the likes of who is in the pits. We only see a few cars, as you see here still. H Critic has coming into the pits for the pit stop right now. Guerra has come into the pits. V Tigris in the Porsche has come into the pits, as well as Dipping Sauce in the Mustang has come into the pits. No one else has come into the pits. And I think the better strategy here is to just have a long pit stop.
Yep, a lot of these drivers looking like they're going all the way ahead. As Cerebine, as you mentioned, he did have a slide, so I think those tires are going on all of these cars, not just Cerebine's car, but everyone else is having struggles, having to face these high speed, mid speed, low speed corners of Red Bull Ring. It's really tricky on particularly the left hand side tires of these cars. So they don't want to be out for too long, but at the same time they kind of want to time it perfectly. They don't want to come in too short and have to face the consequences of bad tires all over again.
Yeah, and I can see some data here, so I'll give you an update on what has happened. Last laps, the grid now has given to a basically a has basically settled down to a grid of a 120.9s, 129.3s, 129.2 lap times on the front. Our Kelly last lap has our Kelly has done a 129.2. RK, Cerebral has done 129.3, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers continue to behave. But the pack here entirely from the front to the back, they are all doing basically similar pace as well. At the back, I see like of Saber Kitsune in the 129.8. So still very strong to see drivers here going at it with how far we are into the grid. We are going to try to get you your action back into the scene. So I'll slowly try to get you more updates here. But as of now, drivers are already 16 laps into this race. But there's going to be more to go as we start to slowly tick into it. 35 minutes remaining to this race, as we see the likes of RK still in front in the Ferrari, Cerebine in P2, KD. No, that's not KD. That's Castro Fox in the Lexus in B3.
Oh,
And
we have an update.
ooh,
Cerebine going down the inside of Fennekin and RK. Fennekin. Oh,
oh
no!
no.
Fennekin took out RK, and that's gonna slow down Cerebine, and that is Kestrel to the lead of the race. What drama from backmarker? That's just backmarker drama in this race in the mid stage of this battle. Oh my goodness, that's another driver. That's Denak going wide. A lot of chaos at the moment. Backmarker drama. Lots of drivers fitting here, there, and everywhere. It's just chaos all around.
Yeah, that is the case with Simufur, with how big the grid is. That is usually what happens here. But just give you an update here as well. Critic in the Ford Mustang getting a stop go 30 for speeding the pit lane. That is unfortunate for your drivers. I think we also need to remember that drivers need to remember to practice their pit entry. If not, you get unnecessary uh, penalties here. Stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. Some might get a drive through, and if you're too fast, you might get disqualified. So definitely not the move here, as you see here, as drivers start to get chaotic as they start to get into the pits. But RKA definitely not happy about the incident. They are definitely 5 seconds down from their competitor in front. So they definitely have a long way to go. Definitely not the most ideal, given that we are already halfway through this race at 33 minutes remaining to this. So we'll slowly get things back. But for now, very interesting to see how things are heating up as drivers are starting to get back into the pit lane.
Head and check. Well, conveniently we are back, but I was about to say we do have drivers streaming their perspective. So if you want to check them out, go over to the Simufur Discord to see who is streaming their onboards, or search Simufur on Twitch. You might see a few drivers there streaming their own POVs of the race as we get back into the action. Finally, I think our cameras are here, but we don't see it just yet. We're still waiting it for load on our end, and at the moment, at the moment it is Kestrel with the lead of a race, with Cerebine not too far behind.
And the grid is back, so it's interesting to see that, we have glossed out a lot of action, but we are still seeing the likes of Katie right in front, Castro right in front though. RK definitely 5 seconds behind, so it's gonna be a long run for them. But for now, we'll try to work hard to make sure that things go by. Luckily for us though, pit window is still active. Some might pit at the 30-minute mark, but for some, they're gonna wait to the very end, and it's gonna be interesting to see how things go right now. Though with P18, Juan V still right. We're back in Juan V again. P18. As you can see here, the two grids ahead of where they qualified. So pretty nice to see that Juan V is doing all right in this race. But for some though, especially at the car ones at the back, definitely not the best race they had this race. But we still have 5 more races to go after Red Bull Ring.
Yep.
So it's not the place to give up. They still have more races to come, so hopefully you'll see them in the next race. But for some, this might just mean that they might just end it here.
A lot of drivers coming into the pit lane. You saw RK coming into pit lane, Vex right now coming into the pit lane. Might I add, still, the leaders, Kestrel and Cerebine, have yet to make a pit stop. They're probably waiting for that 30-minute mark as these two chase each other down to the Red Bull Ring circuit. As we look over to Saber, coming in there. Yep, that is RK as I've glossed earlier into. But at the moment, it's going to be interesting to see who will pit, who will come in, who will come out, and how will this shuffle the field.
Yeah, it's gonna be something to look out for. But for now, pretty for you, what is your review of this race right now, given how chaotic things are and things are starting to slow down?
I mean, how else can I explain it? It's one way to start. It's the traditional way to start a Simufur series. We do have a lot of chaos. We do have a lot of great racing action right now. It's just cinema all over this racing field as Cerebine and Kestrel still continue their run, still staying out. As we look over to Azergold, who's down into P18, I assume they've made a pit stop, because there's no way, unless from an accident, that they would fall down the order. But at the moment, Parcho pitting, and there is Wushel in the Pro Class Porsche coming out in, I assume that is P4. Wushel staying out at the moment. Clippert staying out. This is surprising, especially for the Lexus, because I remember that hearing that the Lexus is not best on their tires. And there is Plasma piercing through the field. At the moment, he did have that drive-through penalty, but is still soldiering on.
Well, you could say that the Lexus is not strong on the tires itself, but at the end of the day, this is a track that doesn't really require too much on your tires. And we already see this evidently in the fact that you had to basically give 2 laps of a warm-up to get any sort of heat into your tires. So I think it's going to be beneficial for the cars that are strong on power, but really not that good on the tires. That will be the likes of the Lexus, the Nissan, as well as the AMG. So these cars that are really strong on power, but not the best on tires, might get a beneficial edge.
Oh, there is Kestrel. Yep, there's Kestrel coming in the pit lane, going for that undercut. Cerebine going as long as he can, I assume, or boxing directly opposite Kestrel. But Kestrel in the pit lane, this is really vital, because the pit stop time, you lose 62 seconds in the pit lane. Coming in for 30 seconds, staying still for changing the tires, and coming out is 32 seconds of your time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very close call for Cerebine. I assume, given that they did have the fact that Classroom was in front of them to get any sort of pace in front of them. But for now, Cerebine basically free in the win. They might try to go for a push lap. They might try to, be on their own, making sure that they are fighting through traffic right now though. But they might think about if they want to pit or not, because right now with how much traffic there is on grid, some of them might just decide to just pit, because at this point, why be in traffic when it could be in free air? But for Cerebine, they might be just comfortable being alone. If that's the case, they might just want to push for the very last end, because the GTR, notoriously not that good on the rear end itself, but given how less you really push on the tires here, they might just last to the very end. And for them, it's gonna be no issue, because you get fresh tires at the end, and the fact that you get basically minimum fuel to the very end, it's gonna be beneficial for them regardless of how late they pit. So they might think about extending it.
From my perspective, Cerebine is coming in the pit lane. This is going to be very vital for his race as they slow down into the pit lane, get to that 60km/h pit speed limit. Go over actually 50, but go over that. You have a drive-through penalty. Was it a stop go or is it drive-through?
A stop go 30 if you're too fast, a drive through if you're barely over. So you gotta make sure you slow down just enough, because at the end of the day, I'd rather lose 2 km/h or at least 5km/h into the pit entry rather than giving myself more than 60 seconds of drive penalties just for speeding in the pit lane.
That's right, and this is going to be very intense because you see Kestrel Fox in Sector 3, that Lexus muscling their way through the final sector as Cerebine is still in the pit lane and trying to fight that undercut of Kestrel. Cerebine still holding position at the moment, not yet moving as we pan over to Cerebine. Cerebine comes out of the pit lane. They are rolling right now, but is it enough? Will Kestrel beat Cerebine, or will Cerebine beat Kestrel? Cerebine comes out of the pit lane alongside Kestrel. I think Kestrel got the jump on Cerebine, but Cerebine has the fresher tires and the better speed, better car with the better tire wear. management. But at the moment, it's just too close to call. Cerebine lost a few seconds and will want to gain that back.
Well, if we're looking at the data right now, we'll see that both cars basically have a 1 minute pit stop, and they both stop for 32 seconds. So they have pretty comparable pit stops. It's basically just Castro having a better exit lap, and I think that's gonna be something that Cerebine will not be happy about. But they'll have a clean lap in front of them to catch up. So they'll just be fingers crossed to make sure that Castro gets some lap traffic in front of them, just to close in a little bit. But I think the one that will be the least happy one will be RK down into P5 right now, as we have Saber Kitsune as well as Mr. Hrabak in P2. Both have not pitted. I think those are the last two that have not pitted.
Yep,
Looking
Saber's
back,
coming
no, I
in right
stand
now.
corrected. There is Guerra as well as Tigris. Actually, both have pitted, but they're not here. Saber is coming into the pit stop, and that'll be the last two that have not been pitted. So I think once these two have pitted, we'll start to get back to grid positions, as we have 25 minutes left into this race. The drivers only have 5 minutes remaining to get the pit stops. If not, they will basically get a penalty for not doing the pits in the pit window. So hopefully the drivers are aware of this. Actually, no, they are all both in, so we'll get to see Castro coming down start finish straight, as well as the rest of the grid. And I think that will be the regular standings that we'll be expecting to the end of the race.
Yep. Again, that penalty for not serving your pit stop in the pit window is a hefty one. It will send you a lap down, so you really want to get your pit stop on time. As you can see, Kestrel coming down the inside, trying to lap some lap traffic, and gets past quite easily.
All right, so we're gonna continue to view this as we see Castro here still trying to fight between lap traffic here, as Cerebine is still following behind as close as possible. R. Kelly, though, you see here, P3. The gap's pretty big. Unfortunately for RK, I think that's gonna be a problem for them, because the lap time's not getting the gap's not getting closer, and that's gonna be a problem for them, because that's basically P1 thrown away. So they really want to hope Castro as well as Cerebine both have an issue in front of them, just so they could claw back P1. But for now, unfortunately for RK, it's definitely not a night to remember for them.
From what I'm seeing in chat, Lappy, our AM class pole sitter, unfortunately retired due to technical issues. They had a power cut by what I've been hearing in chat, and that's just unfortunate news for the number 87 RRP Mustang. Yep, from what I've been hearing, there's a big storm in the UK right now, so definitely a tough time for our British racers out there.
And we also have the likes of, as well as Sauce Dragon. One of the drivers of RRP also has gaming issues, as they just crashed out. Their game has crashed out, so definitely not the most stable. At the end of the day, it is a 40+ driver grid, so definitely we will expect some drivers to have technical issues here. That's going to be unfortunate for them, but hopefully they're able to get back here next race. But for now, we'll get back to the action as Auras tries to make a move right now in P18. Still, actually, good for them, as they qualify. They are currently standing where they qualify in position 18. A very strong position, given that we have 40 drivers here on the grid. So hopefully they continue to stay alive, as we see here. Saber Kitsune dropping down, fighting for positions there. Ooh, Zahn having a move here, P14.
Yeah, Ven gets ahead of Saber into turn 1. It's quite a long straight, but Saber might have the advantage with that Mustang coming into turn 3. They're getting really, really close. So here we go. Saber with the send. Not quite. And Ven still continues holding position. At the moment, it's still Kestrel with the lead for the overall standings. And in the silver class, yeah, Kestrel leading both overall and silver. And as Nick said, and I can confirm in chat, Sauce Dragon also had a technical problem. So again, not a good day for our British friends, our friends in Great Britain, who are facing a storm right now. But anyways, we have Kestrel Foss leading both overall and silver class standings. And might I interrupt myself, because we have Czar going alongside the Mustang of Dipping Sauce. I think that Dipping Sauce is a lap down, but I don't know. But continuing on from what I'm saying about the standings, at the moment in the YAM Championship, I've been meaning to get to that. Thank you. But at the moment, it looks like 1V leading the YAM class so far.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how the grid is settling down. But 20 minutes remaining to this race as we see drivers start to shuffle back into some racing conditions. Saber, though, currently a position down as we see here from their qualifying pace. So definitely gonna fight hard to get back P14. But the BMW in front just strong as ever as we see here, as well as P16 strong behind. So they definitely want to make sure that they don't have any issues here, because once they get any issues here, they're just gonna get eaten up by the Porsche behind them, and that's definitely something that they do not want. Currently, though, because they don't even know they don't even know what the class they are fighting for right now. Everyone's fighting for positions, and for them, they might think about making a move. They might not. At the end of the day, right now, every position matters, just to make sure that they clear everyone and get their own class championship. For some, Saber, though, in the pro definitely wants to get any position possible, because they will get points only if they are able to be in the top 10, if I believe. But any point matters for the final standings for this race. So maybe some might just say RBR, being that we do have a drop round in the season. Might be their drop round because of the weird standings and how the cars perform here. But definitely want to get some positions here, just in case you cannot attend any other races during the season. But yeah, now strong here with, we'll see here Saber having a good run. P14 might have a move here. Will that happen though? They do side by side, but they
Look at the outside, but
better
Ven
of it.
blocks. Ven blocks really aggressively, but Saber's still holding on in the slipstream of that BMW. Mustang's going to get a lot more overspeed, and the Mustang is just closing in, closer and closer. Saber on the outside line. Can he send it from the outside? Late braking into turn 3, and Saber wrapping around the outside, but it's not quite. That is Ven pushing Saber a little bit wide. But as we said in chat, top 20 do score points here. And speaking of Drivers' Championship, the teams here have agreed on a unofficial teams championship where the top 2 of each team will score for their team. But here is Saber on the inside line. That is really close from Saber. Really aggressive maneuvers. But Ven holding off very aggressively, just putting that BMW in every spot possible, making that BMW as wide as it can be. But Saber with a great exit. I don't think it's that great, but it's still sticking its nose on one side of the racetrack, wrapping around the outside of turn 9. Can he do it? Saber going for the over-under by the looks of it into turn 10. Save it for later. Yep, they're trying to save it for later for into turn 1, but if they fight, they're just introducing electroshocks to a freebie. That is Saber with the top speed again, going for the inside of turn 1. Can he get the move done? Not quite, not again, and there comes electroshocks going on the Mustang, trying to fight that number 523 as they go side to side, almost side to side, coming into turn 3. Can electroshocks dive down the inside? Saves it for later, thinks of the Silver Class Championship, because Saber is not their opponent, Ven is.
But they have a better run. Electroshocks are going to have another move here as we see side by side coming down to turn 4. The Porsche might have better brakes here, so we'll have to see here. But Plasma, though, having overtake here. But we might have to go back to the action here as we see here fighting side by side here just then. So it's going to be interesting to see how things happen. Saber, though, still fighting strong here. So unfortunately for them, as you see here, like I said, if you have an issue within the fight between just now with Ven as well as Saber, if you mess it up, they will basically capitalize on what has happened within all of them. So unfortunate for them that they have to basically defend for their position. But for now, they might just reset, get back up to the back of Ven again, and get back into racing. But as you see here, grid starting to open up back again. Maybe they had some issues there, maybe some braking issues, but they definitely are happy that Electroshock basically has pulled back a little bit. It's time for them to have a breather and slowly go back in front again, as we see here. Wushel, though, strong in P6, coming up slowly, fighting back into the Lexus in front in P5.
Oh, I think the battle is closing in between Saber and Ven. Let's pan over there and see how the Mustang is doing compared to that BMW. It is turn 3 once again. Saber with overspeed, wrapping around the outside. Can he get it once more? I think he's going for the over-under. No, he's going for the outside. Can he do it? Not quite. Unfortunately, Saber trying the same maneuver, but Ven is not going to be fooled twice. Really great defensive effort from the number 46 or 64.
64.
64 BMW, but that is Saber wrapping around the outside. Can he get the move done? Oh no, they touch the gravel. That's gonna slow them down immensely and introduce electroshock all over again. Saber is just in a cycle that he wants to escape because as soon as he tries to overtake Ven and make a compromise, there is electroshocks in for the kill. But Saber holding on as boldly as he can. Unfortunately, it's not enough, and Ven still holds out a very valiant effort in terms of defensive driving.
Yeah, that Van is definitely the cork and ball in this whole train here. But to be fair, the train is only competing for 2 because it is a very strong between the fight between Van as well as Saber. Because if Saber gets past, I got a feeling Saber is just gonna run away with it. But for now, though, coming back to P5 and P6, Wushel already at the back of Cliprat in P5. Really strong driving for both of them, but Wushel not that strong in the straights as you see here. The Porsche just getting left behind as Lexus just power through it. So it's gonna be interesting to see how things go. Wushel might
Saber's
get
going
very
for it
frustrated.
again. Saber's going for it again. Coming
Oh
into
my
turn
God.
3, going around the outside once again. Saber, that move. You've done that move several times, and it's not going to go into any avail. And there's electroshocks coming in for the kill. I think Ven really going for that inside line, knowing he can put Saber in his place right there. But Saber quite late on the break. There's contact. There's contact coming into turn 4. That is Saber and Ven going off, and electroshocks capitalizes from this battle and incident.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look back into what has happened here. I got a feeling that Saber might have just basically accidentally broke a little bit too early and basically have a hit here. But unfortunately for us, we will not be able to see it properly. But for them, though, it's gonna be interesting to see what has happened for them. And I think there's gonna be a talk in the serious chat. If not, the driver's gonna have a talk later to decide what has happened between the two of them. But for us, the race goes on. But the one that benefits here, who that is, it's Electroshock, because they just basically wait patiently behind, getting front row seats, getting popcorn to basically feed on what has happened in front of them, and they get the benefit for all of them because you don't need to worry about fighting for positions, and just like that, you gain 2 positions. And I think Saber and Ven are gonna have a talk after this race about what has happened here.
At the moment, it looks like it's well, the screens aren't showing much at the moment, but yep. Here we go. The screens are back on for us. Yep. Newt and Plasma coming into turn 4. It looks quite stacked right behind it. I'm not sure if that's lap traffic or if it's really a gaggle of cars fighting for position. Yep, that is indeed lap traffic. But Newt at the moment chasing down on Plasma, and might I see? Yep, Saber's under trouble again. I don't know how Electroshocks got back behind Saber and Ven, but again, it's these 3 all over again.
Yeah, sorry, what you're saying? But at the end of the day, I think because of what has happened with Ven as well as Saber, I think Saber is definitely not gonna let go of that position. I think they're gonna fight for the same positions again. But see here, though, Ven already have damage on the rear wing due to the fact that Saber has definitely caused an incident behind them. So they'll still go back for it. But right now, I'm not sure why Electroshock is still behind the 3 of them, given that they did have a good overtake. So I'm not sure if Electroshock had a moment then, or the fact that they just gave the position back. But for now, they're still strong, fighting for positions here for P14.
Might I correct you guys? That was another Porsche.
Oh, yeah, it is another Porsche.
Yeah, that was fighting alongside, but Saber and Saber and Ven going side to side. Now finally within the real Electroshocks range. Thank you very much. Saber again going for the outside, but Ven blocking that inside line. Just really strong defense effort. And we're here to see the real effort that Electroshocks can pull when they are when they were battling with these two drivers. Keep in mind, Electroshocks and Ven both in the silver class, Saber Kitsune in the pro class. So it's going to be a different race for Electroshocks. They are not after Saber. They are after the number 64 BMW of Ven. But Ven just putting out a valiant effort of defending, keeping that car in between them and Electroshocks.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see that. We said Electroshocks, but I think that's a different driver. But for now, that is a different Porsche that was fighting behind them, the car 32. So for them, it's gonna be interesting to see how that's the car 75 Porsche. I stand corrected. But for now, it's gonna be interesting to see how things go. Vex though losing a position to the car 84 Mustang. Definitely not sure what's going on with Vex. Unfortunately for them, though, positions dropping slowly, a little bit by bit, as they get away from the top 10.
Saber's
But
going
the top
back
10 is
again, going for the
pretty
outside of
strong.
turn 3. Turn 3, here we go, but that is a compromise from Saber. That brings the Electroshocks. This is actually Electroshocks this time. We confused another Porsche beforehand, but this is the real wrath of Electroshocks on Saber. This is a battle for position, but Electroshocks diving down the inside. Can he get the move done? It is really close. They almost made contact, but Electroshocks putting the power down and getting ahead the Mustang of Saber.
Yeah, definitely a little bit left out by Saber, but the Mustang strong on power. It's gonna be. I think you're gonna see Saber fighting for the position again, down in the back straight. They definitely will benefit here, but Ven will have the biggest benefit here, given that they finally have a breath of fresh air behind, a sigh of relief behind them, because they're gonna start to pull away as Saber starts to fight back for that position in front of Electroshocks.
Saber's
but
diving down the inside of turn 10. Is that too deep? Not quite. Saber gets that move done on turn 10. What a move. Now the Porsche I wanted to add, doesn't have the best top speed around here compared to that Mustang, which has lots of legs. It has legs for days and just uses that top speed to its advantage in the straight line sections of this Red Bull Ring circuit.
Yeah, the Mustang's going to have a very strong, easier run here, as we see Wolf in here. Letting Plasma by, the lap traffic definitely is going to be interesting here, as we see here. Time ticks now, 8 minutes remaining to this race. So not much longer for the drivers here. You just got to hold out for 8 minutes. Wushel, though, still behind the Lexus in front. I think it's going to be frustrating for Wushel, given that they are pretty strong in Sector 2 and Sector 3, but with how strong the car is. Whoa, as you see here, an overrun by the Lexus here. Not sure what has happened. Oh, the Lexus is coming in for the pits. What has happened? Did they basically miscalculated their fuel? I think that's going to be a problem for the Lexus, as we see here. Wushel just continues on, and that's a position for Wushel for P5.
Likely the case. Yes, that is part. And following behind Wushel is Parcho, who is actually P2 in the silver class, but here is Clippert coming in. I don't know why. Probably some fuel miscalculation. Is definitely not for the mandatory pit stop, because we've already dealt with the mandatory pit stops a long time ago. But Parcho really getting aggressive all over Wushel, trying to find the gap, trying to find any place to take position. But Wushel holding out quite strongly at the moment.
Yeah, as you see here, holding on to, as you see, a Parcho in the Ferrari. Both drivers, comparable times though. So the Porsche might get a slight disadvantage, given that they do not have a tow here. The Porsche is really down on power at Red Bull Ring, so the Ferrari might get a better edge, especially with their stronger aero coming into turn 6, turn 7. So it's gonna be a good shout between the two of them. 8 minutes remaining, so actually more, 6 minutes remaining, 7 minutes remaining for this race. So the move has to be done now, or it's gonna be never. And I think for the both of them though, regardless of what happens, P6 and P7 both are going to be happy that they basically avoided all the chaos that has happened today, as you come back here into the fight for P16 and P15 here. But the Mustang already pulled in front, but now going to slowly go back into Ven, coming down to P14, and it's going to be interesting to see how things end up for the three of them.
Looking into chat, I've received notification that Jinfolf retired from technical issues. Again, there are a lot of drivers, so it doesn't bode well with some of the drivers' computers. But there is Saber going around the outside of turn 9. Is he brave enough to get the move done in this section? Still sticking this nose out of turn 9. into turn 10. Is it going to be a different story? Not quite. Saber and Ven. Still, it's a drag race coming into turn 1. These two have been fighting for a long time now. Can Saber get the move outside into turn 1? Turns it into the over-under. Is that Wolfen? That is the BMW of Wolfen was spun. Unfortunate for them, but let's gloss back onto this battle. Here we go. Here is Saber. Saber going on the outside of turn 3. If the camera can... Yep, Saber going on the outside of turn 3. Can he get the move done? It's going to be close. They touch. They bang wheels. But Saber going around the outside. It's going to be 3 wide. It's almost a 3 wide. Coming into turn 4 as Electroshocks tried to sneak a nose in, but backs out and thinks better of it. Coming into turn 4, Electroshocks might go for the move. Not quite, because these two are still going to RG-Bargy, and he's... oh, Saber gets knocked out wide into the gravel. Lets Electroshocks through. And I think the Mustang might use its top speed here, but Electroshocks ahead for now.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's definitely a very hard fought between the two of them. I don't think Saber will be appreciative for that little door bang at the outside of turn 4, but it's kind of a racing incident issue. But with the position lost with the Porsche, they're definitely gonna fight very hard to get back to position here. 4 minutes remaining to this race, so if for Saber, even though they lost out on P14, they definitely do not want to lose out on P15. So it's gonna be a very strong fight, especially the fact that there is a Ferrari behind them. I can't tell if that's a lap traffic or the fact that there is another driver fighting for this position. As you see here, the BMW defending hard for the three of them, and it's gonna be actually that's the lap traffic of another Porsche here. So definitely the fact that Van is now in front with 13 seconds, and it's gonna be very. It's basically the BMW gone and Saber fighting for P15 right now.
At the moment, this is the battle we want to focus on. But we do have a potential battle for the lead between Cerebine versus Kestrel. That GTR is now closer than ever to that Lexus. The two Japanese giants, Lexus and Nissan, going head to head in the final stages of the race. And as he said, 3 minutes to go, less than 4 minutes to go actually, for these two to determine who's going to be winning this race. But Cerebine, really relentless by the looks of things, really wants to get that position back. He wants to translate that pole position into a win. But Kestrel, really great defending at the moment. Cerebine looking down every inside, but yep, that Lexus is just holding on quite strongly, not wanting to budge at all. But that number 57 GTR still all over the mirrors.
Yeah, it's, I think Cerebine is gonna have to think about sending it here and then, because there's 3 minutes remaining. But with how strongly Kestrel is defending, it's gonna be a pretty significant fight between the two of them. But we'll have to see who holds out better. Does the Lexus hold out better in the tires department, or will the GTR basically come through with how strong it is here? But both of them, big gap closing in, coming out. There is an issue here for some of the curves here, as we see here coming, especially the last corner here. Corner entry has a little bit of bump, so some cars might get pushed out wide if their dampers are not as good. But both of them, though, currently taking the curve as much as possible. Both taking track entry and as well as exit as much as possible. Cerebine, though, taking every last inch of the track limits as they could. But right now, as you see here, bears the fruit as they're coming down into the back. Turn 3, though. Will he go inside, outside, inside, outside? No, on the outside.
Oh.
Will that stick? Right now, we'll see side by side. Switch back for the two of them. Will they? Oh, P1, Kestrel basically blocking them. But right now, Cerebine side by side. Oh, not there yet. Basically still in the way. 2 minutes remaining. They only have a lap or two remaining to get this move done. Will they get a very strong set down into
Cerebine? There is no way he's going for the inside of turn 4. Oh my gosh, it's going to be a send for the lead of the race. Cerebine with that brave send on the, what do you call it, on the marbles. Wow, what a brave move from the number 57 GTR. And unfortunately, the marbles aren't going to make his grip a bit slippery, but I think Cerebine has shaken that off easily, and I believe this will be the penultimate lap as they approach the final lap of the race. Cerebine versus Kestrel for the final lap coming into turn 9 and turn 10. This is going to be close between the two as they head towards the final lap.
Yeah, but the gap's starting to already start to move out as Castro struggling with the fact that there is a car in front of them. Some drivers are not going to be happy that they have another car in front of them because that basically just covers their braking lines. And I think Castro seeing the results of it, even though they will have a better toe on the straights itself. Cerebrine though trying their hardest to break the toe for them, but Castro, you see here, already here, maybe doing a little bit of a dirty weaving under the straights, but it's not weaving too much, trying to break the toe. But I see here Castro already far behind. I think Castro needs to think about not trying to get as much toe as they get from Cerebrine and just focus on being in the straights, because right now, given that both of them are weaving left and right, it's really not beneficial for the lap times for the two of them.
But again, this is the final lap. This is the right time to juke it out. Kestrel and Cerebine have been on each other's necks for a while now, and Cerebine putting what could be the juggler move that defines this race, as Cerebine, the number 57 GTR, tries to keep that gap ahead of Kestrel, but Kestrel not giving up just yet. Kestrel hoping for a miracle in this final sessions, but as the corners come by, the chances run short, and it's becoming more and more likely that it's going into the hands of Cerebine. 2 more corners to go. This is turn 9 into turn 10. 1 more corner to go, and Cerebine, 1 straight to go, and Cerebine is the winner for the first round of the Simufur GT3 series. What a battle between these two drivers.
Yeah, very amazing race between the two of them. As we see here, drivers start to come down into the start-finish straight here. RK coming down into P3. Right here, P4. Harper Jackson in the Bentley. Strong race finish for the Bentley driver here in car 203 coming into the grid, coming down into the start-finish straight in P4. Sarah, though, coming P5 in the Porsche. Great run for them. Azure basically ending in at P7, a position gain for them, which is nice. Rank, though, that's MNU coming down into P8. Strong drive for them. Plasma, the favorites, unfortunately, is now in P9. Not the strongest track for the Audi. P10, Mute, the second Blue E driver coming down, finishing the top 10s. And we have started to slowly see drivers start to basically end their laps here for the hours at Red Bull Ring.
Yep, that will sum up the racing for the overall class. I'm not sure who won silver. Yeah, oh wait, yeah, it is Kestrel who won silver actually. Being P2 right behind Cerebine. And for the AM class, I'm not sure if it's... I assume it is number 20. I assume that is... Who's that again?
Sorry?
What? Who's that again? You know its name? The Honda, number 68?
Number 68, that is the car of... That is not a car that I know of. Oh, no, that's Lunar at car 68 at
Lunar.
P22.
Okay. Yeah, I assume if Lunar is in fact an AM class, then they are the No, wait! It might be Phaser, the number 574 in P24, who wins the AM class. But the results, the official results should come out in the official Simufur website. Go to simufur.com. That will lead you into the Simufur Racing website, which has the results of each race and when each race will happen. And if you do want to join in with this grid, by all means, we can sign up in the Simufur grid in that website, as well as join the Simufur Discord, because you will get updates to all these results, all the racing that's ahead of you, and get to chat with all the drivers who have raced in this grid and who have raced in this grid beforehand. Anyways, that should close up our race. But I wanna ask you guys. I wanna ask you, Nick. Who was your pick of the day? Who was your driver of the day?
I mean, it's really hard to decide because the fact that we have a lot of different drivers tonight, and I'm gonna be a little bit biased. I am part of Cabal Sim Sports right now, so definitely given that I have had track time with MNU is definitely one of my drivers to look out for. Cerebrine and the fight in front though, definitely my pick was Cerebrine, given that I also have basically had a setup run with them as well. So I just like rooting for people that I have developed setups with. So it's nice to see Cerebrine going strong into P1.
I'm going to have to agree. Cerebine was my pick of the day. Like, while their start wasn't as great, they made up for it with their incredible racecraft and that phenomenal send into turn 4 on Kestrel. That looked scary, but Cerebine made it stick, and that was the move that defined this race. Anyways, that will round up the first round of the Simufur GT3 series. Next week, is it next week? I assume it is next week. We are
It is next
heading
week.
into Spain for not Catalonia, but Valencia, the Ricardo Torno circuit, not that street circuit that once was in the Formula One series. But again, we expect the same racing product. We are hoping for that actually, as we conclude this race and head over to the next week. And that will wrap up our stream for tonight. Thank you for watching. Apologies for the technical issues we had along the way. But I am Suzuka Shark. Alongside me is Nick, and we'll see you on the next racings that's to come.